Today, we're looking at Diamine's Majestic Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine's Majestic Blue, as it sounds, is a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Pilot Metropolitan with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately dunk it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is there is a darker blue line across the bottom that even immediately put on the page, it makes it feel like there's going to be some resistance with this ink. Now it pushes up very light and becomes very dark across the bottom and a super dark blue line across the top. But I think that's just the ink gathering. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now the blue line across the bottom looks a little bit darker and we do not see as much of that blue run away, which makes me say that blue line on the bottom is the color. And most of it seems to have stayed after 10 minutes. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it did not like being re-wet at all. It spread, it feathered, it got gross, but it's completely readable. The yellow turns kind of a green in the highlighter. Again, it's still readable. So you would be safe if you did choose to use this and then have to highlight in a note-taking situation. Water reactivates and lifts most of this ink off the paper. Now that's only 30 seconds for that water being there. And in 30 seconds, most of this ink is coming up and we see the tiniest bit of the paper wanting to show through, but not quite showing through. Bleach, Pen Flush did everything that water did and more. The paper is obviously starting to come through. The dots of the rhodia paper are easily seen through where the ink has been lifted. It makes me say Pen Flush is all that you need to get this off of or out of your pen. Bleach obliterates but leaves a yellow stain behind. Now, I wouldn't suggest using a bleach solution to get this out of your pen because I don't believe it's going to need that much. The staining left behind does happen, and it's more for me a product of what happens with the bleach. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Majestic Blue has a viscosity of 1.66, making it a very wet ink. Very wet. Super wet. It's getting towards water, wet. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Majestic Blue has an average dry time of 7 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading in that 1.1 writing. The extra fine gives us the same tone of writing that we had with the 1.1. The extra fine had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry, so very quick drying. The medium had the exact same tone of blue as the extra fine and the 1.1. It had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 6 seconds to dry. Now, the scrubby for the extra fine and the medium show us a little bit of color variation, but we did not get any in the writing sample. And the smear test says you could likely recover it if you did smear while you were writing. Tomoe River. Tomoe River has no bleeding. It does have ghosting. It's a very thin paper. It's going to. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The exact same tone of blue for the extra fine, and the extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It only took 7 seconds to dry. And the medium, it actually looks just a hair darker. Just the slightest tone difference into the medium, so it does get a little bit there. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. It took 13 seconds to dry. I'm noticing right now something's not plugged in, and I am worried that something is going wrong. I'll find out in post if something went wrong with the recording. 13 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. The smear test says you could not recover it. It's Tumway River. That's normal. So Rhodia gives us no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It's the same tone of blue that we had with the 1.1. It only took 3 seconds to dry. A noticeably darker tone in the medium with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. The smear test says you could likely recover it if you did smear while you were writing. So I look at yellow Rhodia to see what happens with the color with a different tone paper. The yellow Rhodia gave us no bleeding and no ghosting, which was expected. And the color difference, which is very strange because the 1.1 looks the same. And I know it's not going to show on camera, but the extra fine and the medium, more so the extra fine than the medium, turns to almost an aquamarine that leans blue. So it's very interesting. I'm trying to move my mic here because I keep rubbing it with the beard. Let's see. See how maybe this does. I don't know. We'll find out. So it's got like this kind of aquamarine tone to it, opposed to just the blue. It's very interesting in what it did. The 1.1 had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. 3 seconds to dry. It's noticeably darker tone again with the medium. The medium had no feather, spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby showed us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. The smear test you could likely recover on yellow when it smears, which is just kind of interesting. This is an Inky Fingers notebook. The Inky Fingers notebook gave us no bleeding, no real show-through, so not bad at all. The 1.1 gave no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine has the exact same tone. The exact same tone has no feather, spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. I don't like how that mic is working there. This doesn't sound right to me listening. 3 seconds to dry with the extra fine. The medium is a noticeably darker tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. The smear test, I believe you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. So Namasanine, love how this paper feels. I wish it was completely blank. It has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It's just beautiful right there. The extra fine is a little bit lighter tone than we got with the 1.1. It had no feather, spread, halo, sheen. No shading came through in this at all. 4 seconds to dry. The medium is a noticeably darker tone than the extra fine, and it is noticeably darker than the 1.1. So we do get 3 different tones, at least, on this paper. The medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 9 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both extra fine and medium said we should have some color variation, but we did not. So it lied. The smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Majestic Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on a page, and I've chosen a very nice red ink. Although it's not called red, it's Robert Oster's Burgundy. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine's Majestic Blue? It's a very nice blue ink. I understand why blues are so common to like. This ink is a perfect example of why swatches are unreliable to me. The swatch color looks very different than the writing color. The swatch shows sheen. I saw no sheen in the writing. While it's a very nice blue ink, it did serve as a point to really learn to me where I was doing swatches at one point and then I stopped with this ink because I'd come across this and a few others that they were so different that I don't feel comfortable doing the comparison at this point based on swatches. But it is a nice blue ink and it does help you understand why blues are so enjoyed by people. Thanks for watching.